नमस्कार आर के त्यागी एनसीआर दिल्ली गाजियाबाद ओम सच्ची जनवाणी नए चैनल पर आपका स्वागत है। प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब माय यूट्यूब चैनल एंड शेयर दी वीडियो एज मच एज पॉसिबल टू ऑल सेक्शंस ऑफ सोसाइटी, all sections of political parties. It should be propagate our views, issues and news of retiree friends to mobilize all retiree friends and motivate them. मिस्टर CN वेणुगोपाल एक्स मैनेजर यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का एक पत्र है। ये फॉर्मर डायरेक्टर थे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, गवर्नमेंट नॉमिनी स्टेट बैंक ऑफ त्रावणकोर में। ये लिखते हैं नंदनम केसरी जंक्शन नॉर्थ पाराऊर केरला, और अपनी मेल दी इन्होंने। आगे लेटर नंबर है 240205 5 फरवरी 24। श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया, न्यू दिल्ली। रेस्पेक्टेड प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जी, सब्जेक्ट है राम राज्य ड्रीम बाय द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया एंड द रावंस who thwart the dream. Everyone is aware of the laudable effort of that Prime Minister for building up the Ram Rajya, for celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, but all the good efforts of the Prime Minister are being spoiled by the Ravanas placed at the development of financial services, DFS, Department of Financial Services, DFS, who are acting mischievously by taking law into their hands in gross neglect of the status enacted by the Parliament of Nation. The DFS had been trampling upon the pension regulation of banks approved by both the legislature of India, which the DFS itself laid before the houses of the Parliament after according its previous sanction to them to the banks through an intermediary, which the Indian Banks Association (IBA), in gross breach of the regulations. The pension of the bank pensioners has not been updated for the past 3 decades by the IBA and DFS. As a sequel to this, the pension of the general manager retired 20 years back from the bank is less that of his clerk retiring now. A colossal discrimination with no parallel anywhere in the world. The question that pops up before anyone is whether the DFS is incapable of independently framing and implementing the regulations without involving the IBA. Regulation 35(1) of the pension regulation unambiguously states that basic pension and additional pension wherever applicable shall be updated as per the formulae given in Appendix 1. This was the amendment of the initial proviso which in respect of the employees who retired between the 1st day of January 1986 but before 31st day of October 1986. Basic pension and additional pension will be updated as per the formula given in Appendix 1 carried out in 2003. The amendment was giving stress to the updating by replacing the words will be updated in the initial regulation with the words shall be updated in the amended proviso, and also by importing the words wherever applicable as the prefix to the words shall be updated, but the regulations was never honored by the DFS and IBA, and the pension in banks remain at the same level without being updated during the past 3 decades. When questions are asked by members of the Parliament as to why pension in banks is not revised, the DFS is feeding misleading information to the ministers telling that the pension regulation of the banks do not have provisions for updating the pension. Pension is paid as per the agreement between IBA representing banks and unions of employees and associations of officers, which is an utter lie, as payment of pension is governed by the provision pension regulations, and regulation 35(1) is a definite provision for updating. In case updating of pension was not intended under the pension regulations, the DFS has to state reason as to why the initial proviso under section 35(1) was mentioning about the updating, and the regulations was further amended in the year 2003, giving emphasis to the updating of pension wherever applicable. The banks gave 100% dearness relief neutralization on full basic pension with effect from 1st May 2005 to those who retired from the banks on or after 1st November 2002 at the sweet will of the DFS and IBA. However, for no rhyme or reason, the benefit was not given to pre-November 2002 pensioner who retired on or before 31st October 2. Finally, IBA recommended to pay the benefit to the pre-November 2002 retirees also from the date it is approved by the DFS, and DFS sanctioned the payment from 1st October 2023 with instructions that no arrears shall be payable for that period falling before the effective date. The bank pensioners who worked in a pressure cooker atmosphere all along while in service have been looted of their dearness relief on pension for 221 months from 1st May 5 to 30th September 23 in the process. On an individual basis, each pre-November 2 retiree lost 12 lakhs to pre-18 lakhs through the sanction. When the matter was taken up with the Secretary Financial Sector, he acted in total addiction of his responsibility and simply forwarded my letter to Chairman Indian Banks Association, fully knowing that IBA will not be able to do anything unless he himself asks IBA to do so. DFS was under the guise of sanction of the dearness relief from 1st October 23, committing the loot of arrears of the dearness relief, a part of pension for 221 months from 1 May 5 to 30th September 23 payable to pre-November 2. Bank retirees as if they were the children of a lesser god, which Lord Sri Ram will not put up with in his Ram Rajya. Surely this is travesty of justice and not Ram Nithi. The Constitution Bench of the Honorable Supreme Court had on 17th December 82 ruled in D.S. Nakra case in the matter of pension that pension is right, not a bounty or gracious payment. The payment of pension does not depend upon the discretion of the government, but it is governed by the rules, and a government servant coming within those rules is entitled to claim pension. The ruling before the law applicable to the whole nation, the DFS was exercising a discretion not available to it and short changing the dearness relief on pension to the pre-November 2002. Bank pensioners in gross disregard to the law of the land, the DFS cannot plead ignorance of law for committing a daylight robbery of the arrears of pension and is bound to direct the banks to pay the amount along with interest to those concerned. The DFS was breaching the principle of Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. Through this brazen discrimination, one is forced to ask whether this is the kind of right to equality guaranteed by the Constitution, and are not central ministers bound by their oath of office to uphold the Constitution. It is also pertinent to mention that the ruling of the Honorable Supreme Court emanated in a situation where the payment of the pension was payable out of the exchequer and with a cost to government, and in the cases of the bank pensioners, the pension is payable out of their own pension funds created with the CPF of employees and CPF refunded to the banks by employees family of deceased employee who retired on or after 1st October 86, who were admitted to the pension scheme launched on 29 September 95. As such, in the case of bank pensioners, the non-revision of pension as mandated by the pension regulations amounts to a loot of their money, property and deferred wages held by the banks in the pension fund. This is in gross neglect of the ruling dated 1st July 15 of the Honorable Supreme Court in Civil Appeal number 1123 of 2015, State of Rajasthan and another versus Mahendranath Sharma, where it is held that pension shall not be less than 50% of the ruling pay bands corresponding to the pre-revised scales of pay. Taking due from this ruling, DFS and IB are categorically bound to update the pension in banks in accordance with the revised scales of pay arising out of each bipartite settlement. It is also worth nothing that the bank employees are the people who implemented all the financial policies of the government and uplifted the economy of the nation. The banks have mobilized rupees 2,70,218 crores in Jan Dhan Yojana scheme of the Honorable Prime Minister, besides promoting and implementing the various another schemes of the government in turn pays nothing to them, as the salary of the bank employees is met out of the profits they themselves make in banks. Their pension is also paid from the pension funds built up with their CPF, but even as the pension funds of the banks show a balance of 3,58,000 crores and the payout of the pension is less than 25% of the annual growth of the pension fund, showing that all banks can pay 2 to 4 times the present pension to all their pensioners without touching the corpus of the fund. The pension in banks is not revised as mandated by the pension regulations. Majority of the bank pensioners left to their eternal abode in penury when their deferred wages and property is unlawfully detained by state-run banks in the pension funds. The Honorable Minister of Finance has exhorted the IBA at its 73rd annual general meeting 3 years back that the bank retirees should not be left to fend for themselves and they shall be given OROP 1 rank 1 pension, but neither bank nor DFS cared the sweet words of the Minister of Finance that kindled hopes of the bank pensioners, giving them double disappointment as her promise remains to be a mere promise even after more than 40 months. Whenever salary and pension are revised by the government, it is granted with retrospective effect. But when the pension was revised in Reserve Bank of India April 2019, it was given with prospective effect only at the unavailable discretion of the DFS, while undoing the wrong by paying 100% DA relief to pre-November 2002 pensions of state-run banks. Also, the payment was effected with prospective effect from 1st October 23, only stealing the arrears payable to 221 months from 1st May 5 to 30 September 23, in order that the aspirations for Ram Rajya of the Honorable Prime Minister of India and the concept of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav come true, it is essential that the loot of the pensioners is put to an end, and the Honorable Prime Minister directs the DFS in clear terms at once to revise the pension of the bank pensioners as mandated by the pension regulations of the banks with immediate effect, and to pay the arrears with interest. Pay the arrears of dearness relief cum interest for delayed payment to the pre-2002 pensioners with effect from 1 May 2005 as paid to the post-November 2002 pensioners. What I am seeking is Ram Nithi and Nithi as contemplated in the Constitution of India, and note that Nithi decided by the bureaucracy in the DFS. This is a prayer to you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope it will not end as a cry in the wilderness. Jai Sri Ram. Yours faithfully, CN Venugopalan. Copies Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister of Finance, Government of India, North Block, New Delhi. The Secretary, FS, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस, नई दिल्ली। तो ये थी। धन्यवाद साथियों। नमन। आर के त्यागी।